Dear breeders, you are now looking forward to Vivaldos. He is now already 7 years old, this shining chestnut from Hanoverian lands, who is presented to us this year by Desperados. A movement horse and stallion from head to toe, if I may say so, Gerd. His performances are always characterized by maximality. The trot mechanics are unrivaled. This youngster out of Vivaldi. You can't get past this V-blood on the licensing grounds until our time. Vivaldi here is paired with a very famous mare. And the breeder himself we welcomed here last year, Heinrich Ramsbrock, with his Doris Day. She is a daughter of Desperados and Brentano II, who did everything right in her young years. He was Bundeschampioness and he won the Hanoverian Championships and is a prime supplier of top horses. Fräulein Ines, also by Ampere, was reserve champion of her show and she supplied the licensed stallion Alphaville. And that already leads us to what we actually want to emphasize here, the unbelievable heredity reliability of this bloodline. And these pictures are unforgotten. He is still at the hand of son Hendrik Sosath himself. That was the main premium in Fechter, Oldenburg, which he deservedly received for his outstanding foal crop. What are your memories, Gerd? They are of course positive, because it is difficult to have the main premium winner in Oldenburg, especially in dressage. But we have never had such a stallion with such a first foal crop. That was sensational, and we had an average score of 8.75, which is really exceptional. And he simply makes outstanding foals. He's a brilliant sire. He wasn't in good health for a while, then we didn't have a rider, so he couldn't be promoted in terms of sport like other stallions are developed at that age. And this summer he was very frequented, so we left him instead. And now Medita has taken him and trained him further. But he's just a super sire. He makes top foals. What he improves tremendously in the foals is the trot mechanics. The foals trot from the carpal joint with a strong hind leg. They are beautiful types from the colors. They are sometimes bay foals, but often black or also chestnut. And Doris Day is simply Heinrich Ramsbrock's pride and joy. She has started 10 times and won 10 times. Desperados genetics is just so good, with Christina Spree, Olympic champion and German champion. Then Brentano behind him, the good old Hanoverian blood. So I think he is so well backed up genetically that he will make also great riding horses later on. We have seen the first ones, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old mare. You can see the quality of movement they have. They come right out of the pasture. And you can take them and they are always on, always there, walking, trotting and cantering. And what is also good, I must say, with the first ones we broke in and with the foals, they have an incredibly good character. You can really handle them well, and that is also important. The foals are easy to get, you can pet them, you can put a halter on them, and he passed that on very well. And I'm particularly pleased to see that the 3-year-olds are also holding those mechanics. So it wasn't just effect kicks at the foal shows, but they hold this basic mechanics. You mentioned it, we have the first licensed sons in Hanover, and also this offspring that we were allowed to take a look at here in Lemberder, this 3-year-old mare by Vivaldos out of Bonita by Ampere Donnerschwee. Quite in the way of this typical uphill, incredibly much go and mechanics that's already unique. Well, you haven't had a gated sire like that in your barn. Well, you might have a point here. It's sensational, especially because they really come from the breeding stable. We didn't have that many calls this year, but now for the next licensing we have several highly interesting offspring in the loose stable, and I think that there will be a lot more Vivaldos offspring at the licensing places. He has also covered a lot this year because he has had expensive foals everywhere and has had winning foals at the championships and at the auctions, which always goes well, and breeders like that. Walter Kind, we want to let you have a word as well. Gerd had mentioned it. Vivaldos was a little bit injured and behind the training due to the injury. He's now 7 years old, but he seems to be able to reach his class goal after all. Desperados and he harmonize very well. We already see very appealing half passes. How do you see the further training work of this Vivaldi offspring? Well, I have to say, he is actually not that far behind. We do it the way it is done at Sosath. We were able to qualify a horse super well in the early stages. Back then, Veronika Steinhoff rode him and qualified him for the Bundeschampionat. He was fully in the level then. Then he had to cover a lot and he had the stable injury. Of course, we give the horses time to develop again. He is now finding his way back into the sport finally with Madita and will go his way in this season. We would like to say a big thank you to the lady in the saddle, who again handled this excellently. And of course, he says goodbye in his parade basic gait, here in this typical uphill and this lever, which makes him so desirable throughout Europe. The representative of the Vivaldi blood here in Lemberda says goodbye with great mechanics, Vivaldos under Madita. Thank you very much.